Chainsaw Man. A man that turns into a chainsaw. But is he a man? No. Denji is nothing more than a 16-year-old who never had a normal life. Denji grew up without parents and was burdened by his father's debts to the Yakuza. He never had a proper home, struggled to put food on the table, and all he had was his little dog, Pochita, who is a devil. All he ever dreamt of was good breakfast and a girlfriend, but soon after he was killed by the Yakuza with the failure to repay his debts. Luckily for him, Pochita became his heart and he turned into a human chainsaw devil hybrid. Chainsaw Man is many things, but one thing I think they excelled in is the representation of sexual assault and grooming. Both are obviously heavy topics, but it is pretty obvious that in many forms of media, when it comes to the victims being men, boys, they are not taken as seriously, usually played as jokes, just brushed off, or many even calling the victims lucky. Denji, after his transformation, was found by the head of public safety devil hunters, Makima. Denji, being a hormonal teenager, was of course entranced by Makima, a very beautiful woman. Denji, with the promise of shelter and food, trusted her straight away. With that, his goal of shelter and food every day was fulfilled. All he had left was a girlfriend. Denji is immature. He never had a normal life, he never interacted with women, and he was never taught anything much. With this shrewd perspective, after stumbling across porn magazines, he made his final goal to
I really want to touch her boobs.
A goal he reached soon enough. After saving a character power, she allowed him to touch her breasts, but Denji, however, was left unsatisfied from it, which left him in a shocked state. On the surface, it looks comical, but if you look into it, Denji expected this to be life-changing. It's something so many men want to do, but he barely felt anything after doing it. Makima found out and taught him about physical intimacy and the importance of sex. Denji was moved by this. It's obvious his pursuit of sex is a substitute for the love and affection he never received. Makima adds that along with the guise of sex, labeling it physical intimacy to make him easier to groom. She can easily promise it to Denji by making him continuously do the mission she wants.
There's a favor I'd like to ask, if that's alright.
Denji, who craved that intimacy, will follow her demands because that affection is what he strives for. But the subtle grooming of Denji only further ruined his life. In the latest hit movie, Denji meets the character Reze. Despite clearly falling for Reze, having many reasons to do so, he still thinks about Makima, and he feels guilty for having feelings for someone else. Denji doesn't actually have a real reason to do so. His interactions with Makima are usually only work-based. Even with the date in the first half of the movie, Denji and Makima barely had any real connection. They just watched movie after movie, barely talking, and the only real connection being Makima providing his basic needs and promising future intimacy. As compared to Reze, where you can see Denji having true feelings for her, with both being stripped to their purest forms, just two teenage weapons finding human connection for the first time. In the case of sexual assault, Denji has been the victim multiple times by stronger or older women. All the way in part 2, Denji asked one of his assaulters if she liked him, only for her to say no, and the only reason she did that was because it felt good. We see how Denji is affected. He just wants love and connection, but of course,
Everybody's after my chainsaw heart! What about my heart? Denji's heart!
and in the case of Makima, she wants the chainsaw devil to herself, not because of the love she has for Denji. Every encounter is either the need for his chainsaw heart, or just purely pleasure. He constantly feels used, and in many cases, Denji is in a depressive state, and feels empty from the actions of his abusers. We also see that his lust drives him to do things he doesn't want to because that's all he knows and is what he expects from the women in his life. Even after some he loved died, he only cared for sex and he hated himself for it. It's not played as a joke. We don't see Denji being called lucky because this woman is attractive. We see how real and raw this affects a person by showing Denji being broken and empty every time it happens. On the surface, Denji is just a stupid, horny 16-year-old boy. But if you dig deeper, he's just an unfortunate and immature, and is constantly taken advantage of, which sadly happens to people everywhere despite age or gender. With the series framing his actions within themes of toxic masculinity and emotional immaturity, and by showing how this pursuit can be both damaging and ultimately unfulfilling, is why it sets itself in the representation of male sexual assault in media and especially in anime.